everybody, I'm Tom Vasel, and welcome to the Dice Tower as I continue to go through various game publishers and tell you my 10 favorite games from them. Today we're talking about Osprey Games, which is a subdivision of Osprey Publishing. Now, Osprey Publishing has been around for a while, and they were mostly known, and maybe still are mostly known, for their publications of books, and especially they did a lot of war books, books about various aspects of different things throughout history and war, and very interesting, neat books. But they got into publishing, and as the years go by, their reputation continues to grow. And in fact, there's a couple games I didn't put on my list because I haven't played them, or I didn't like them as much as other people. There's a new game coming out from them that's getting a lot of buzz. So there's a lot of games. These, though, happen to be my current 10 favorite games. Number 10 for me is Zoo Ball. This is the simplest game on the list, and this is essentially just flicking. You have these different animals. You're playing sort of a soccer, football style game with a mat. It's really, really simple, but you know what? I tend to like flicking games, so this one made my list, Zoo Ball. Now we got a couple word games. First at number 9, we have Inkling. Inkling is a game in which the letters can be You are trying to get people to guess a pile of words. And so you're going to place letters out in any direction you want and crisscross them. You can turn a letter over to be blank. And so you're trying to use both the letters to get people to guess the words and logic for them to figure it out. Since a letter could be half of a letter, part of a letter, there's some interesting ideas here. So if you want a little bit of deductive reasoning and mixed in with word game, then you'll like this one, Inkling. Number 8, the other word game, is Letterpress. Letterpress is a more straightforward game in which you are using letters from your hand and the middle of the table and trying to just make words and score points. Scoring the most points lets you collect letters for that final end game word that you make. This is a simpler game, but I do enjoy it, Letterpress. All right, number 7 is actually a game that's not original with Osprey, but their reprint was so fantastic I want to mention it, and that's High Society. High Society is a game from Reiner Knizia, which is a simple auction game. You have a bunch of money cards. You use these money cards to buy luxuries, things that you can brag about later on. And whoever has the most of these luxuries value at the end of the game wins, except whoever spent the most money automatically loses. Simple concept. It's been used in many games. I believe this is one of the first games to do it. The Osprey edition of this game is absolutely gorgeous. A fun little card game, High Society. Number 6 is one where I might get some feedback here because it's not my number 1, but I do like this a lot. It's Imperium, and there's 2 versions currently, the Classics and the Legends. This is a deck building game of sorts. It's also a civilization building game. It's one of the more complex games in this genre I played, and I think I would like it best, or I think I like it best at 2. I heard it's also a very good solo game. But in this game, as you take a civilization, whether it's one of the classic ones like Rome or Greece, or you have some, fantasy type things where you have the Atlanteans and whatever. But each person has kind of a very different deck. You're building your empire, using cards. It's a very deep, involved, and ultimately fulfilling game, Imperium. Number 5 is a trick-taking game, but in a way you've never seen before, and that's Brian Boru, High King of Ireland. This is an area control game, a point-scoring game, a fighting game, but it all revolves around trick-taking. There's a deck of cards. You are drafting these cards and using cards to play a trick-taking game. The winner of the trick gets to put a token on the board, but everyone gets to use the special abilities of their cards depending on the numbers and things. It sounds like I'm describing a very complicated game. I'm not. The game is not actually tremendously complicated, although I would argue it's a little bit to grok on how to play this well. But I found the combination of trick-taking and area control and everything else, trying to marry off somebody or, fight off the invaders. I thought it was some really neat ideas, and it's fun. Number 4 is Cryptid. Now, this is the original Cryptid. There's a lot of deduction games out there. Not not social deduction like Bang or Werewolf. I'm just talking about logic, trying to figure things out. And Cryptid, which the theme of this game being find one of these weird jackalope type creatures that's out there. The theme is barely there, but the basic deduction aspects of this and working with everybody else and trying to figure out exactly what it is, and the fact that you can continually there's so many different scenarios to play for this. This is deduction down to its core, stripped down, very well done. Number 3 is Wildlands, or you could also put in here the sequel, which was Judge Dredd Helter Skelter. Both of these games have very different themes. Wildlands is fantasy, Judge Dredd is, well, Judge Dredd, but they play with the same game system. In this, you have a group of 5 people on the board that have some slight differences between them. You have your own deck of cards. They have hit points. You're running around fighting each other with crystals. All the combat and everything is done with cards. It's a really quick game. It's from Martin Wallace, who's kind of king of the complex games. But this one, I've just found that people really like it. A little tiny skirmish game that's not complex, but a lot of fun, plays very quickly, and is a beautiful production. So that's Wildlands, or Judge Dredd Helter Skelter. Number 2 is another deck building game, but this time we enter into war games. So this is Undaunted, and there are currently 2 versions of Undaunted, Undaunted Normandy and Undaunted North Africa, which I think is the superior of the 2, but they have a lot of similarities between them, and then an expansion that expands, well, both of them. Undaunted you have is very squad level combat. You have a little squad out there. Even Undaunted North Africa, which adds the vehicles. You have like 1 vehicle or something. You're running around, but you have a little deck building mechanism, and there's dice in the game. You're rolling dice to shoot other people, but you are manipulating your people to get into the position where the dice will best help you. And when you hit people, they're removing cards from their deck, and it's just this really interesting way to do a combat game that feels different than anything out there before. The more I think about Undaunted, the more I think, even though it's combining mechanisms we've seen before, it feels wholly original. So definitely one to check out. My number 1 game is one that I doubt will be very many people's favorite game from Osprey. It's one of the ones I've already mentioned, probably, or one of the ones that's not even on the list, but my favorite is a personal one, and that's Escape from the Aliens in Outer Space. This is a game in which there is hidden movement, except everybody has hidden movement. Players are split. There's some humans, some people are aliens. You're all in a spaceship. You're all moving. You're announcing where you're moving, although many times you're lying. People are keeping track, trying to figure out if you lied, told the truth or not, and also if you're coming after me, are you an alien, or maybe you're going the other direction? It is a very stress-inducing game, especially if you're the human, because you're never sure there's an alien out there coming to get you. And it's so unique and fun. It's one of the few games where the theme really comes to life, because you're not playing in the dark, you don't have aliens jumping out, but you feel like they could. And that just makes this game a whole lot of fun for me, and that's why Escape from the Aliens in Outer Space is my number 1. Those are my 10 favorite games from Osprey Games. What are yours? Let me know in the comments. Until next time, I'm Tom Vasel, and this has been the best of publishers on the Dice Tower.